Greetings. Welcome to ITR Live. I'm your host, Chris Hagenow, and we are back here in the Hendrickson Library at the Center for the Preservation of Western Civilization at ITR World Headquarters in Central Iowa. You got John Hendrickson and myself here today, again, ready to thrill and excite you on another action-packed, fun-filled episode of the gold standard in Iowa conservative entertainment.
We had a rough start, but
we got it. Yeah, I was trying to get John to adjust his chair, and our regular listeners, they appreciate you, John. And
I'm not very what would you say?
Technologically savvy.
Yes, yeah.
So the desk chair here that you're in, trying to get it at the right height. So anyway, we'll see. We did well on it. We've got a lot to cover today, and not a lot of time to do it in, John. So we're gonna. I don't want to make this too abbreviated because we got some things that are important that we need to talk about, but I want to kind of get right into it. And I want to say at the outset that our thoughts are with State Senator Claire Celsi.
Yes.
And her family is the announcement that she was going into hospice care for, I think, a series of health challenges she's had in recent months and years. So anyway, to make sure we acknowledge that. And then I wanted to spend a little time too, in maybe I don't want to give gloss over the Senator Celsi news, but our friend Jack Whitver also announcing this week that he will not be seeking reelection to the state Senate and is stepping down as Senate Majority Leader. So something that is obviously. I don't know. I mean, it's the end of an era, I think, and so that's kind of disappointing. I understand all the reasons why. As folks know, Jack is battling brain tumor, and it's actually going really well, beating the odds and doing a great job. But he's going to spend more time with his family and his kids and focusing on getting better. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit today. We can give a lot of thoughts on, who Jack is. To me, he's a friend. Mm-hmm. To me, I've seen he's not just a political leader, but just how effective and influential he is and how much he's passionate about the issues that we're passionate about. But you've talked about this. You've written about Senator Whitver in the past. I mean, give me your kind of the big picture thoughts on his impact on the state of Iowa.
Yes. I wrote an article maybe a year or so ago, and I described Senator Whitver as Iowa's quiet conservative because I think it's sort of rare for a politician who doesn't seek the limelight, and that Senator Whitver kind of reminded me of Calvin Coolidge, one of my favorite presidents, because in two perspectives on that. One is philosophically, when Senator Whitver became Majority Leader, one of his key objectives was a fiscal conservative agenda of tax reform and prudent budgeting. Those were two things that Coolidge stood for, and Coolidge also was known as the silent president. He didn't talk very much, but when he spoke, he also said great things. And whenever I heard Senator Whitver, whenever he was speaking, whether it was at a Republican event or some type of meeting I was at, and he was one of the speakers, he was always communicating great things, and you always knew where he stood on the issues, and he was always giving you the conservative position on issues, and he always really defended what is good conservative tax policy. And so, he may not have been running out to the cameras or media all the time, but he's a tremendous leader. Mm-hmm. And what we had here in Iowa, I think, when you have with Governor Reynolds and with Leader Whitver, is you had this duo, this conservative duo, a partnership that was very, in a sense, very important to the conservative policy victories that we had since 2018. And I think that's, one, it's transformative, but I think going back, when students of Iowa history and political scientists look back, they'll look back at the leadership of Governor Reynolds and Senator Whitver as sort of that working relationship of that conservative duo as a team of getting these things done.
Governor Reynolds mentioned this in her statement. I saw him as a partner who did more than guide legislation. He made things happen. Together, our administration and the legislature embarked on one of the most consequential periods in modern Iowa history. John, I have a flair for the dramatic sometimes, and maybe I overstate things, but I really don't here. I'm going to build off of that statement. I don't think it's one of the most consequential periods in modern Iowa history. I think it's one of the most consequential periods in Iowa history. All of it. And I think it's one of the most consequential periods of political transformation that any state has experienced at any point. It maybe in modern history, maybe other. The amount of conservative reform that has been passed during Leader Whitver's time and Governor Reynolds' time, and I'm not trying to give any one person too much credit, because I know that Jack himself is probably going to, call me up. It's like, hey, you went a little too far with that one. I can feel it coming.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, clearly we've had a great run. And still are. I mean, this legislature is still capable of doing great things. So all of those things. But you're right that they were a very good partnership and helped get a lot of things done. And, you made the point that you always knew where you stand with Jack. And that is something I have heard from people over and over, is his ability to speak clearly, speak sincerely, and speak authoritatively on these issues on which he held strong convictions. Foremost, chief among them is a commitment to fiscal conservatism and lowering taxes and being disciplined on the state budget. If there's anything that I think is core to his time in the legislature, it's that. And the progress that we've made, which we've talked about on this show over and over, is just tremendous. So, anyway, I guess the other part that at risk of being a little too dramatic, the other comment is that the governor said the most transformative Senate Majority Leader Iowa has seen perhaps ever. I completely agree with that. I think, and I said this, I did an interview for KCCI the other night, and my comment was, I think he's one of the most significant figures in the history of the state of Iowa. I think you can talk about it. And because many of the things that conservatives look at as these and look, the rest of the country's been watching Iowa, John. This isn't just us doing things here. But many of those things were championed by Leader Jack Whitver and getting his caucus. It's one thing, and we can get into the nuances of what legislative leadership is like, but it's one thing to hold a strong position and being able to communicate it and doing all those things and being right on an issue and being smart. And yet at the same time to do all the things it takes to be a successful legislative leader, because there's the things like rallying people to your cause, setting a vision, and managing all the different needs of people, and at the same time being a successful fundraiser.
Yes.
Which is probably the most time-consuming part of that job. And you should never discount how important that is. And we may wish for a reality in which it didn't cost a lot of money to run these campaigns, but it does. And as much as people like you and I and members of his own caucus believe in Jack, the major donors in the state similarly believe in his leadership and were willing to invest in his caucus. And that is, I think, everyone around him believes in that vision. And I want to, again, Jack, I'm sorry to go so over the top on this, but the other thing I mentioned in the interview I did the other day is I firmly believe that he is not done contributing to the future of the state of Iowa. I believe this is stepping back for a time, and we will see more of Senator and Jack Whitver into the future doing very important things for the future of the state.
Yeah, and I just want to add one thing. One, I agree with what you said, and I think whether one agrees with the conservative policies, you have to take in consideration just the effectiveness of the leadership of getting things done, and also building the majority that he did in the Senate, and building that coalition. And last year we saw Governor Reynolds get a lot of honors from different different groups, and rightly so. I mean, for her leadership.
Absolutely. None of this is to take away of all the things. Yes.
But a good part of that was, was the leadership of Senator Whitver to help get some of those things through.
Right.
And so I think he's been instrumental in that. So I would agree. The other thing is when I talk to a lot of national groups, and a lot of times people always ask me, "Do you know Senator Jack Whitver?" And so a lot of people have good things to say, and so it's he's known outside of Iowa, and just for his leadership, and so that's encouraging too. I mean, there's so I think that deserves to be mentioned.
Yeah.
So
no, absolutely. To be around Jack and talk to the members of his caucus, talk to those that serve with him. I mean, I read this Des Moines Register article with people around the state, Chairman Kaufman and Congressman Feenstra, and I know I saw a comment from Speaker Grassley, all saying variations of a theme, was just how effective he was and a good partner he was. And I think I can be philosophical about the legislature and the building. I think those conservative reforms will continue. I believe there is effective leadership up there that wants to continue securing Iowa's conservative future. And the legislature, is bigger than any individual, but there's no question that he has carved a tremendous path through that building and has impacted many of the things that are celebrated about the recent. And it's not even the big front page reforms. There's many things that he helped shepherd that weren't even the things that we talk about right here. But so anyway, I just it's a big news event, and we're all watching, and I know that there's many people that are looking forward to seeing what's next.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So great. Okay. The other thing I wanted to cover today, John, is yesterday. So we're going to transition now from you just being here on the show to you're going to have to switch into being a guest.
Yes.
on the episode now.
Yeah.
But we have here as a guest on the ITR Live podcast, the recently confirmed member of the advisory board for this, the newly minted Center for Intellectual Freedom at the University of Iowa, which was created by the legislature last year. And so the Board of Regents yesterday voted you in to be a member of that advisory committee. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On behalf of the staff and members of Iowans for Tax Relief and the listeners of the ITR Live podcast. But we've talked about this before, but remind folks again what this is and what the goals are of the new center.
So the legislature created the Center for Intellectual Freedom at the University of Iowa, and I should say there's similar centers at the other Regent universities, and this one is specifically designed to encourage civic education on campus, and specifically looking at the founding documents, the Constitution. This week, for example, was, we celebrated Constitution Day, September 17th. And what the Center for Intellectual Freedom is going to be doing is going to be encouraging, discussion and coursework. And so it's still in the infant stages, but it's going to bring in guest speakers, guest lectures. There's going to be faculty involvement and encouraging civic education and discussion on important topics like the American founding, discussing the Constitution, and topics like freedom of speech and
a bunch of like conservative right-wing stuff, right?
Yes, yeah.
No, I mean, look, these are just fundamental principles that should be a part of a classical education, right?
Yes, yeah. And so this is something I'm very honored to be a part of, and I've been very passionate about the issue of civic education, and so I'm looking forward to serving in this capacity, and thankful for the opportunity to do this.
And we talked about this when we went over. There are some very prominent Iowans that are on this committee.
Yes,
this is not So it's not an afterthought.
No.
There are people who can help pull a lot of these things together on this committee.
Yes.
And so I'm excited for you to be a part of that group. I think I know many of them on that group, and I'm excited for you to get to know them and work with them. I think you'll really enjoy it. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there to really reset some of the things that, or at least refresh the spirit of some of these things that should be taught. I mean, we were talking in the pre-production meeting this morning, John, that there's a couple of us on here that have children going off to college this year, and quite possibly at a Regents institution, and wanting them to have access to that kind of thing. And we all hope at a personal level, not just from a societal level or statewide level, that this will be a real thing, so that those these speakers are available, or this coursework is available. I mean, to actually impact. Because that's what it's ultimately about, right? Is the students enrolling at these Regents universities.
I did not.
University of Iowa.
Reflecting back on my college experience, I did not have access to something like this.
John, you had cable television.
Yes,
you had C-SPAN. You had McLaughlin Group, and you had Firing Line. So don't start with me. You had what you needed.
It was that's true, but it wasn't on campus. I mean, from a program. But I mean, so I think this will be exciting and offer a lot of opportunities for students and even the community to participate. And so I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I'd like to come to some of these speakers as they come over. What you were talking about.
Yes.
I mean, we're going to have nationally recognized speakers coming over for this. So I think it's going to be great.
Yep.
So congratulations on that.
Yeah.
And we will be checking back in with you in the future on how that's going. So here's the point in the episode where I ask you, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Yes.
And we do need to kind of close the loop on something.
So we have a winner from our trivia question from last week, and it's Representative Bill Gustav, who is reclaiming the mantle of winning again.
Yeah.
And so the question was, what was the major Civil War battle that occurred this week on September 17th, 1862, that changed the war aim for the Union? And it was the Battle of Antietam, or the Battle of Sharpsburg. Either or answer. So
and how did that change the war goal?
Yes, and so after the battle, in a sense, was a draw, and but afterwards, Lincoln issued the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, and it changed the war aim now to be not just to keep the Union, preserve the Union, but also now to make the war about ending slavery.
Yep.
And also, it also, to a certain extent, ended hopes of what Jefferson Davis had wanted, was European recognition of the South. So that was Antietam was not only just a horrific battle, but it was also considered a turning point. So
I have one other follow-up. So we from the last episode too, we had a conversation. We were talking about Charlie Kirk and his legacy, and one thing that I relayed that I had heard was the suggestion that Charlie Kirk was the greatest American Christian martyr. And so we talked about that and still kind of debate that, right, as we go through history. We've had a couple listeners to the program one of them suggest that but ask the question, where does Martin Luther King Jr. rank on that? And I think we talked about that a little bit. And so I wanted to throw that out just as feedback. I'm not saying one way or the other, but I think it merits conversation. And we're not going to talk about that. But I wanted to, just as throwing that back out for our listeners, that we did kind of think about this some more. And when we make bold claims on this program, but we also want to be thoughtful about them. I think that's a very, very informed, reasonable take. Now, different people, and neither one of them maybe were even directly because of, the stated Christian faith was the reason. And you look, when someone's assassinated by a crazy person, you never know exactly what their motive is.
Yeah.
But people that were stepping out into the public square with their faith being a core part of their message and who they are, and then ultimately being assassinated, I think that absolutely is part of it. And I'm not even trying to equate the two of them.
Yes,
obviously, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. is one of the pivotal moments in American history.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I thought that because I thought it was a good take, and we pass along the feedback from our listeners.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
all right, we have covered a lot of ground. So we're going to sign off for today. Again, no new trivia question for today, though.
I do have one.
Well,
yes.
come on.
Yep. And so just quick.
All right, new trivia.
Yep. So
is this about the Civil War again?
No.
Oh, okay.
Since we are on this week was Constitution Week, and September 17th was Constitution Day.
You were supposed to take the day off work.
Yes, I know I didn't.
Okay.
So there was a justice of the Supreme Court who wrote one of the early commentaries on the Constitution called the Constitution of the U.S., of the United States. And he served in the early 19th century. And he, like I said, he wrote a commentary on the Constitution, sort of a clause-by-clause commentary. And so we're looking for his name. What justice was that? He wrote the Constitution of the United States. It was a commentary.
I'm not pulling it right now, but I think I'm going to. But we'll see. Okay, and I'm going to challenge you, John. Yep. We're going to answer this.
Yeah.
We need trivia that is outside of 1861 to 1865 and 1920 to 1938. Something outside of that, those two windows. Okay, I'm going to ask you to stretch yourself next time, okay?
Yep.
All right. So, Civil War, Roaring 20s, and the Great Depression. Get like something outside of those periods in American history.
I need to stretch my
horizons.
But
we appreciate your expertise and your specialization on these things at the same time, too. All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends. And with that, we will see you next time on ITR Live.